the importance of, the accountability and leadership, even down to the community systems of how you should be, and also selflessness in terms of leadership, because many people, go into some of these leadership opportunities looking to see how it can benefit them, and not just, the people who they are there to serve. They look at it more like, they don't look at it as a service to people, you understand? Because you have some of them, feeling grandiose, and that's when you spoke about, accessibility, where they are accessible one time, and then at the end of the day, they are not very accessible. Why? I understand. I want to ask this question in terms of accessibility. Do you think, I feel like some people feel like, some leaders feel like if you give too much accessibility to the people that you're following, they tend to take advantage of it. Do you think that there's a limit? But at the same time, as a leader, you're expected, especially one in public service, you're put there to serve, you understand, not to be served. So do you think that there's a way someone can, balance that gap of being accessible, but not in a way that, because also, as much as we want to be accessible, I think that there are people who abuse this accessibility to you for other ulterior motives and, all of that. So how do you now balance that out? So, I also like the fact that that's one question, and I like the fact that you also expressed how, as a leader, it's important to provide the resources, the environment to make sure that those that you are leading can effectively do the task that you want. Because many of us, as a leader, you're expected to, produce certain kind of results, and then you put the pressure on the people without waiting to find out, without listening to find out their own concerns, to find out whether they are in the right environment to provide the results that you require. So I feel like that's also a very important aspect also for leaders to take note of, to making sure that are they providing the environment it is that people can actually grow. You understand? It's just like putting a plant. Is it in the right soil? Are you fertilizing it to make sure that it can produce what you want? So back to the question that I asked in terms of accessibility. How do you balance it out as someone in public service and even leading your own organization? Where is the healthy balance for someone that wants to serve the people, be accessible to the people, but also limiting it in a way that is not abused by people?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. You are very correct. The tendency is there, for people to also abuse your open door policy as a leader. We do not have absolute open door policy. Why? Because there must be a form of control. If you are a leader of an organization and you decide to institutionalize a structured form that allows interaction between the leadership of that organization and the led, and stick to that institutionalized structured form, you've created a window for interaction. That is one level of it.
Okay.
You've made yourself accessible. For instance, if I'm heading the National Orientation Agency, or maybe INEC, or maybe just think of any organization, any corporate organization, I decide that we're going to hold a monthly meeting that will last, say, 3 hours. That meeting brings together the leadership and the staff members. The objective would be to let people know what management is doing, and to also elicit responses and suggestions from the rest of the people, because they are all critical stakeholders in the operations of that organization. The organization does not belong to the management alone. should be the interest of every member of that organization, whoever is stakeholders, including those we are providing service for. You have a way of bringing them into that kind of forum for interaction. That's at one level. At another level, you can institutionalize another forum between the topmost leadership and the management team. That's at another level, where you can discuss matters that were discussed at the bigger or larger level. You see issues, key issues to be discussed at management level. That is at another level. You can still create another forum between representatives of that organization and maybe external stakeholders. Key stakeholders, but are external to that organization that you want to engage with. Because you provide service, they are in a better position to tell you whether the service you provide them whether they are satisfied with the service you are providing. Maybe they have observations to make. You need their suggestions, you need their feedback. That's where feedback is key. Now, you cannot have feedback when you don't provide, when you are not accessible, when you have not created an opportunity for people to interact. How do you evaluate your performance when you have not created a platform to get a feedback? How do you evaluate whether you are meeting your targets, you are satisfying your customers or not? How do you tweak your policies and your strategies when you don't have feedback mechanism? Now, the feedback mechanism is what enables you to get to know what you are doing, to get to know what people feel about you, where you need to make corrections, where you need to consolidate on. They will tell you what you are doing well. What you are doing well, you now build on that and consolidate on those successes. What you are not doing right, you now go back and take a second look at the strategies. Maybe it's the fault of the strategies that you are using. Maybe the methods are faulty. Maybe the timing is faulty. Right? And unless somebody tells you what we are doing, how we are doing, you can never know. And so every day you have the organization being run on assumption that you are doing the right thing. So accessibility is not just about people coming to rap on your door without you expecting them. When you are possibly concentrating on very serious matters, and then anybody just anyhow comes and raps on your door in the name of accessibility, and then moves in and sits down and does not leave you to work, that is abuse of your open door policy. So you can have accessibility that is structured. You have accessibility that is institutionalized in such a way that is controlled. Alright? And you still achieve the same results, if not better. But if you just throw your doors open, anybody walks in, you just walk in, reporting to office, you have hardly sat down, and then you have people moving in droves. We have just come to greet you, sir. How was your night, sir? And then somebody draws a chair and says, oh God, my wife just left for Kaduna. My children are this. I mean, really, this is precious time that is being used for something else. It is your responsibility as a leader to define how you want the organization to run, and everybody falls in line, because you must have a vision. Alright? And people must, the team you are working with must be able to, is that what that person should be doing at that time? Should be coming and greeting me and telling me stories? That is different from your colleague. Maybe one of your directors, your GSA, and the director comes to tell you a misfortune that has befallen his family. That's a different thing entirely. And not to come and gist. That's a different thing. This is office hours. It's not for gisting. If there is break time that is recognized by that organization, that at the hour of 12 noon, It is an organizational policy that has been communicated every member of staff that at the hour of 12, everybody must go on break. And the break time is 1 hour, from 12 to 1. At such a time, we know it's break time. You can now want to exchange such pleasantries. That is understandable. But that is only when you also understand that I have nothing to do. Right? So you are very correct. Accessibility is not synonymous with just uncontrolled access and distraction. Accessibility should be structured, should be purposeful. It should be purposeful. It should be that intervention or visit that enhances the corporate goals or objectives or the targets that we've all set for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, you distract yourself from the goals you set, and then you cannot account for how you used your time for that at the end of the day. What have you done? You've not helped this. You've not helped the organization. So there are exceptions to every rule. A leader should be accessible there, but there is a rule. There's an exception to every rule. Such accessibility must not be abused. They shouldn't be abused. And if it's something that can be put on hold until at such a forum, why not? Of course, like I said, there could be isolated visits by your management. You have, for example, given a task to one of your officers, one of your directors or the heads of units, and you expect him to report back. And you decide as a boss not to make yourself available at the time he's ready to give you a feedback. You are not making yourself accessible. And that can also affect the work. It can also affect the work. Or he comes urgently to report back so that you meet targets, and then he meets you, the boss, who gave him the assignment, sitting with your retinue of friends in your office, discussing things that have no direct relevance to the organization. Because some bosses behave that way. And rather than pay attention to the officers who have handled official assignments, waiting to report, and then they tell you, go and come back, or they keep you waiting at the waiting room, where they are here discussing, cracking jokes, and taking tea, and eating. What have you done as a boss or as a leader of the organization? You are also irresponsible. Because the time you are now donating to things of direct irrelevance, that are directly irrelevant to your official work,
could be channeled into more productive.
And it has a way of frustrating the officer who has worked so hard and wants to give you a feedback, and who knows full well if this feedback is not received by you and the decision is not taken timeously, that organization, it may cost that organization something very, very vital, very important. You could have such a scenario, and when, after certain visitors have left, and then you report, and a decision that ought to have been taken an hour ago, which was not taken, which will now cost the organization, some bosses will now heap the blame on you. But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you explain to me or slip a note to tell me even while those visitors were here? And he shifts the blame. It happens like that. And then because you don't want to be seen to be described by your boss as being disrespectful or insubordinate, because you could also have such irresponsible leaders. So it's about setting your priorities right and letting your team to have a buy-in. So as a leader, every leader has a vision. Any leader that assumes leadership in any organization, even within the context of a family that has no vision, that leader will hardly achieve much. Because if you don't have a vision, where is your destination? Where are you headed? It is the vision, excuse me, that you have that determines the resources that you use. It is the vision you have that determines how you use your time. It is the vision you have as a leader for an organization and even for yourself or your family that determines the strategies that you deploy. It is the vision you have that determines the quantum of money you require in order to achieve that vision. It determines the budget you make and how much goes into what. It determines the human who you need,
How you use resources.
and how you use and when you use such resources. But when you take away the vision and just any strategy or any path takes you anywhere, it is the vision that you have for yourself that provides the basis upon which you evaluate your performance. If you didn't have a vision, you wouldn't have, your vision is what your picture of where this organization should be. But as a member of staff of this organization, the program officer, you also have your vision. That determines how you are planning your work, your strategic plan that you develop. Who do you need to succeed? It was because you wanted to achieve your vision that you talked to me about this program. Would you have known who to go and talk to? So these are the kind of things. So it determined who to talk to, when to talk to. We had conversation, agreeing on even the time. Is that not so? You prepared, you gave me an idea about what it was all about. These were all strategies that you had to deploy in order to succeed. If you never knew where you were headed, you possibly wouldn't have known how to go about it. And everything bounces back on the leader, who must have the vision. As a parent, if you don't have a vision where you want to take your family to, honestly, you wouldn't even know how the resources available to you as a leader in the family. The resources are your earnings, your children, because you have material resources, you have human resources. Those children that you have are part of the resources that you have. And you cannot succeed as a leader of the house or the family without also caring about what have you built the capacity of these children. Because ultimately you will need them. You don't only need them to use them and dump them. No. You use them. You need them because they are vital to your achieving that. You need them, and also you need them to buy into that vision. And for them to buy into that vision, they need education from you. They need you to communicate that vision. Let them understand it. Let them agree with it. Let them ask questions about it. You have to listen to them. You have to explain to them. And you have to allay their fears. How does that also enhance them? How does that benefit them? You will ask all these questions. And until there are convincing answers patiently given, they are likely not to buy in. And that is why you find some projects initiated by the leadership, the headship of family, being abandoned. Why? Because it was your dream. You were alone. You didn't carry us along. You didn't explain to us. We possibly benefited from the whatever the goodies from that.
Yeah.
But we didn't know where the goodies were coming from. So the day I'm not there, nobody relates with it. Nobody understands. You didn't let them learn the ropes to understand the dynamics. Right? If you had challenges, how were you able to solve those challenges? To whom must they go in your absence? Because, and there are 1,001 examples that we can give of very successful businesses that were initiated and operated by heads of families that died with the passing of the headship of those families. You want to ask, how did it happen? Why? It's because the component of engagement, the component of communication, which is strategy, were left out at the point of implementation. Because you also did not make yourself necessary people to guarantee sustainability beyond you did not understand. That is not to say that it was not a noble initiative. That is not to say that it was not a great idea. But certain gaps were left because there was no communication, no accessibility. So he lost it all. When you are traveling to Kamanja, I give you the example of a fantastic project that was initiated by a top military officer who was the chief of army staff. A fantastic idea that today ought to be a great attraction to tourists and a very, very huge revenue spinner had the man been alive. With his passing, that place has become abandoned. Parts of it falling apart. Another example is, once upon a time we had what, I don't know if you ever knew Cabo Air. It was an airline owned by a very wealthy Nigerian from Kano. One of the great airlines, that is private airlines that we have today is history. Once upon a time, I'm sure you heard of one Abiola who contested for the presidency of this country and would possibly have been the president had he not been stopped by the military. All right, a very successful multi-billionaire with investments in the media. He had the newspaper. He had a football team, successful football team. He had several other investments. He had an airline, Concorde Airline, that was the name. But with the passing of the gentleman, nobody hears of those companies. Nobody. And we can go on and on and on. All those have become history. Right? Today we have a Dangote that is doing very well, investing in sugar, investing in flour, investing in refineries, and so on and so on, sector. But have you also observed a Dangote who has kept some of his daughters very close to him? They are board members sitting, and gradually you can see a succession plan. Is there anything you want to talk about his company that his daughters are not aware of? That is somebody looking beyond. No. So you are likely to have a seamless, hitch-free transition and sustainability plan. It's about letting somebody know what you are doing and letting the person to see the benefits, and by taking ownership of it. The same principle is applicable when you have an organization and you have workers working for you, and they are merely workers that are on monthly pay. Their commitment to that company is likely not going to be as strong as the day you decide that each of those employees become a shareholder in that company. I don't know if you get the point I'm making. Their commitment is likely to be much more the day you decide to transform them from being the workers that are on monthly pay alone to being workers that are not only on monthly pay, but that they are shareholders in that company. In other words, all the proceeds, the dividends, the percentage goes to them. That the prosperity of that company is determined by them. The fall of that company is determined by them. And that the day, if that company grows and becomes a global conglomerate, that the benefits go to them. If it collapses, the company collapses and the shareholders lose. So when they realize that, their commitment to that company, their attachment to that company changes. Because they will now say, our company, because they are shareholders. They don't just take salary, but a percentage, they are co-owners with you. They own a percentage of that company. So they own it. Whatever will hurt that company, they take it personal. So the desire for them to leave that company and go seeking an alternative job, they no longer be there because they leave the company for who? Since they have investment there. So that is the idea behind a leader being accessible and ensuring the buy-in of everybody. The accessibility is not to cause distraction, but is to enhance the performance of the company. That's why also have people, after voting them, they no longer become accessible to politicians. They have a responsibility, a constitutional responsibility, to create. That is why there is an allowance that is provided for in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for elected representatives to have constituency offices and to be meeting periodically with their constituents. That is why you have constituency offices. Constituency offices, by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in a democracy, is to provide a meeting point between the elected representative, who is a steward, to those who voted him, who are the masters. And that is why we are told that the office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. The office of the president or the senator or the senate president is not the highest office in the land. It is the office of the citizen, you and I, because we employ the services of these guys. They ought to make themselves accessible, not in the manner that individually we will go knock our doors to present our individual selfish request. When they don't grant us, we get angry. If an elected representative can decide also to institutionalize a periodic engagement sessions, town hall meetings, that is making yourself accessible. That is making yourself available. Because it presents you an opportunity to present your scorecard, what you have, how you have represented them, what your challenges have been, what your limitations are, and then to hear them out. Let them tell you what their impression about your performance is. Alright? And then you can correct yourself, improve on it. Then they may tell you new things that are of priority concern to them, which you should take back and present in your debates, either at the State House of Assembly or at the national level. That is